I gave them 22 years. 22 years of missed birthdays, skipped vacations, and 3 a.m. emergency calls to keep their broadcasts running. They repaid me with a 6-word email at dawn. Your services are no longer required. 3 months later, they're launching their biggest event in company history, an $8 million spectacle broadcast to millions. They think I'm gone, but I'm not coming back with a lawyer or a petition. I'm coming back with a code I planted years ago, waiting to be activated. My name is Emily Rourke, and until 3 months ago, I was the backbone of Voltix Media's entire broadcast operation. At 44, I'd spent exactly half my life in that glass tower in Clearwater, Texas, watching the company transform from a struggling cable startup to a streaming powerhouse worth billions. I started there fresh out of the University of Kansas, a wide-eyed 22-year-old from Davenport, Missouri, clutching my communications degree like it was a golden ticket. I wasn't just another employee, I was the one who migrated their entire system from analog to digital. I architected their first live streaming platform when everyone said it would fail. I built the redundancy systems that kept us on air during Hurricane Martha when every other network went dark. I wrote the code that still runs their broadcast automation, the invisible magic that lets one person control what used to require a team of 20. For 22 years, I bled Voltix blue. No scandal touched my record, no complaint marred my file. I worked through my father's funeral because we had a major launch. I postponed my wedding twice for critical system upgrades. I even missed my own 40th birthday party, spending it instead in the server room, preventing a catastrophic failure that would have cost millions. The morning it happened, I was actually early to the office. January 15th, 6:03 a.m. I remember because I just bought my usual black coffee from the lobby cart when my phone buzzed. One new email. Subject line, staffing update. Dear Ms. Rourke, your services are no longer required effective immediately. Your access has been revoked. Personal items will be shipped. HR will contact you regarding severance. That was it. No explanation. No thank you for your service. No acknowledgement of the 2 decades I'd given them. Just 6 words that severed me from my life's work like a scalpel through skin. I stood there in the lobby, coffee growing cold in my hand, reading those words over and over. The security guard I'd known for 15 years wouldn't meet my eyes when my badge failed at the turnstile. Sorry, Emily, he mumbled. Orders from upstairs. Within an hour, my company phone was dead. My laptop wouldn't boot. 22 years of work, of relationships, of identity. Deleted with the efficiency I'd helped them perfect. They'd used my own systems against me. The beautiful irony not lost even in my shock. The official story, I learned later through the Whisper network, was restructuring for modern efficiency. The real story? I'd been replaced by Kelly Drayton, a 28-year-old digital native with a Stanford MBA and a salary 40% lower than mine. She'd been shadowing me for months. I realized in hindsight, learning my systems under the guise of cross-training. They called it addressing the generational technology gap. As if I hadn't been the one teaching them what streaming was before Kelly Drayton was even in high school. As if my fingers hadn't built the very infrastructure she'd now control. The narrative spread quickly through internal channels. Emily Rourke couldn't keep pace with modern broadcasting. Emily Rourke was stuck in old patterns. Emily Rourke had become redundant. After creating the systems that made their success possible, I had become redundant. But here's what they forgot in their cold calculation. I wasn't just an employee, I was the architect, and every architect leaves doors in their design that only they know about. They thought they were erasing me. But you can't erase the person who built the house you're living in, not when they still hold the original blueprints. The first week, I kept waking up at 4:30 a.m., my body refusing to accept what my mind already knew. I'd make coffee, check my phone for emergencies that would never come, and sit in my home office staring at the blank monitors that once displayed Voltix's heartbeat. By week 3, I stopped getting out of bed altogether. Depression isn't cinematic. It's not artistic shots of rain on windows or eloquent internal monologues. It's wearing the same unwashed sweatshirt for 5 days. It's your sister Lisa calling 17 times before you finally text back, "I'm fine," just to stop the ringing. It's discovering that without work emails, your inbox is essentially empty because somewhere along the way, your job had consumed everything else. Friends, were they ever really friends or just colleagues? Gradually faded away. The lunch invitations stopped. The checking in on you texts dwindled. I became a ghost story. A cautionary tale whispered in Voltic's break rooms. Did you hear about Emily? 22 years and they just let her go. Makes you think, doesn't it? It was Tommy Zane who finally told me the truth. Tommy, the night shift engineer who'd started the same month I did, called me after his 5th beer on a Friday night. You need to know something, he slurred. It wasn't random. I saw the list. What list? The termination list. You were marked 6 months ago, right after you questioned the new streaming protocol in that board meeting. Remember? When you said their cost-cutting would compromise broadcast integrity? I remembered. I'd been the only one to speak up when they proposed eliminating backup systems to save money. I'd shown them the math, the risk assessments, the potential for catastrophic failure. They'd smiled, nodded, and apparently marked me for deletion. There's more, Tommy continued. That Kelly girl? She's been on payroll since last January. They created her position specifically to replace you. And she's dating Morrison's son, the CFO's fucking son. The fury that hit me was physical, a wave of heat that made my hands shake. But worse than the anger was the humiliation. While I'd been training her, thinking I was mentoring the next generation, she'd been studying me like a specimen, reporting back on my methods, my passwords, my vulnerabilities. I started digging after that call. What I found was uglier than just my termination. Voltix was planning a massive downsizing, targeting everyone over 40 in technical positions. They'd even hired a consulting firm to provide legal cover, to make it look like strategic restructuring rather than age discrimination. I was the test case, the canary in the coal mine. If they could disappear me without consequence, the rest would follow. The internal memos I accessed through a vulnerability I'd left for system maintenance painted the picture clearly. Legacy staff lack adaptability. Compensation packages unsustainable. Fresh perspectives needed for modern market. Corporate speak for old, expensive, and disposable. But the worst part? They were right about one thing. I had become invisible to them. After building their empire, I'd become just another line item to optimize away. They looked at me and saw salary and benefits. Not the woman who'd slept under her desk during Y2K testing, who'd solved the compression algorithm that made their 4K streaming possible, who'd saved their ass more times than they could count. In those dark weeks, sitting in my empty house with severance papers unsigned on my kitchen table, I realized something. They'd made a critical error. They'd assumed I was just another aging employee, grateful for whatever scraps they threw me. They'd forgotten that before I was loyal, before I was dedicated, I was brilliant. And brilliant people don't just fade away. They burn everything down on their way out. The plan came to me while I was doom-scrolling through LinkedIn at 2 a.m., watching former colleagues announce their exciting new chapters at Voltix. That's when I saw it. A press release so glossy it practically gleamed. Voltix Media announces revolutionary product launch. StreamForge Pro. Live global broadcast event set for April 18th. $8 million. That's what they were spending on this single event. Celebrity hosts, Times Square billboards, partnerships with major brands like Nike and Samsung. They were betting everything on this launch, positioning themselves as the future of broadcast technology. The irony was delicious. StreamForge Pro was built on architecture I designed 3 years ago. I sat up in bed, laptop warming my legs, and really looked at the details. Live broadcast across all major platforms. Expected viewership of 12 million. CEO Marcus Wellington would personally demonstrate the technology. This wasn't just a product launch, it was Voltix's coronation as an industry leader. And that's when I knew exactly what I had to do. I wasn't going to sue them. Legal battles take years and favor deep pockets. I wasn't going to leak documents to the press. They'd spin it as a disgruntled employee's vendetta. No. I was going to use their own stage against them. I was going to hijack their coronation and turn it into their public execution. The next morning, I called Tommy. Remember that failsafe I built into the broadcast system? The emergency override? That was patched out years ago. The one they knew about was patched. Remember when I insisted on redundant security protocols? I built 3 backdoors. Tommy. They found one, thought they were clever. The other 2 are still there, dormant, waiting. Silence on the other end. Then, Jesus, you're talking about 90 seconds. That's all I need. 90 seconds during their live broadcast to show the world who Voltix really is. We met at a diner outside Austin, halfway between our cities. Tommy looked older, grayer, the night shifts etching lines around his eyes. But when I explained my plan, something sparked in them. The same rebellious fire that had made us friends all those years ago. You know, I got my termination notice last week, he said quietly. Effective June 1st, 21 years, my daughter's starting college in the fall. I slid a USB drive across the table. This contains everything, the termination lists, the age discrimination memos, the real financials showing executive bonuses while they gut the workforce. All I need is access to the auxiliary broadcast server for 5 minutes to upload the trigger code. The aux server's in the basement, security's light down there, but they upgraded the firewall last month. Your old credentials won't work. I don't need credentials. I need you to accidentally spill coffee on junction box B12 at exactly 2:47 a.m. on April 3rd. Maintenance protocol requires a system restart. During that 17-second window, the firewall drops. That's when I upload. Tommy stared at the USB drive like it was a live grenade. If they catch us? They won't. Because they're arrogant. Tommy. They think they've won. They think I'm sitting at home, broken and defeated. They can't imagine that the infrastructure they're so proud of is still mine. Every line of code, every connection protocol. I birthed it all. And like any creator, I left myself ways to return. He pocketed the drive. What exactly are you planning to broadcast? I smiled for the first time in months. The truth. Beautifully edited, professionally produced, with receipts for every claim. Their own documents, their own words, their own signatures on orders to destroy lives for profit margins. All inserted seamlessly into their precious launch. Right when Marcus is mid-sentence about Voltix's commitment to excellence and family values. Christ. You're going to destroy them. No, I corrected. I'm going to let them destroy themselves, live, in 4K, with their own streaming technology. And the beautiful part? By the time they realize what's happening, it'll be cached on servers worldwide, permanent, undeletable. The internet's memory is long. And I'm going to make sure it never forgets. Tommy raised his coffee cup in a mock toast. To the invisible women who keep the lights on. I clinked my mug against his. And to the day we turn them off. The video took 3 weeks to perfect. I approached it like surgery. Every cut precise, every revelation strategically placed. No shaky cam or angry rants. This would be corporate documentary quality, the kind Voltix itself would produce. I hired a professional voice actress through Fiverr, someone with the perfect blend of authority and disappointment. Someone who sounded like America's favorite aunt discovering her nephew was a criminal. The opening shot, Voltix's own promotional footage of their gleaming headquarters, set to inspirational music. Then, the music distorts, slows. The first document appears, the termination matrix, with ages highlighted, 40s and 50s in red, 20s and 30s in green. The voiceover begins. Voltix Media promised to revolutionize broadcasting. But first, they had to revolutionize discrimination. I included everything. Email threads where executives joked about refreshing the talent pool and trimming the fat. Salary comparisons showing younger replacements hired at 60% of their predecessors' wages. The consultant's report recommending staged terminations to avoid pattern detection. Security footage I'd preserved of Kelly Drayton accessing my personal files weeks before my termination. The centerpiece was a recording I'd made during my last month, a conversation I'd had with Marcus Wellington himself. He'd been drunk at the company Christmas party, confiding how dinosaurs like Rourke were holding back progress. I'd recorded it on my phone, thinking it was just asshole behavior. Now it would be evidence. But the technical challenge remained, getting my package into the live feed. The trigger code had to be perfect, undetectable until activation. I spent nights refining it, testing it on my own servers, making sure it would execute flawlessly. At exactly 31 minutes and 17 seconds into the broadcast, the code would activate, hijacking the feed for exactly 90 seconds before releasing control. Long enough to air my video, short enough that manual override would be impossible. Tommy called 2 nights before the upload window. They've increased security. Someone reported seeing you in Austin. My blood chilled. Who? Don't know. But there's a memo about a potential security threat from a former employee. They've got your photo at all entrances. I'd anticipated this possibility. Change of plans. I'm not coming to the building. Then how? Do you remember the network extension we installed for the parking garage broadcast monitors? The one that ties into the auxiliary system? That was decommissioned years ago. Decommissioned but not disconnected. I checked the schematics. It's still physically linked, just dormant. If you can access the maintenance panel in section C4 of the garage, you can reactivate it for exactly the window I need. Jesus, I'm a broadcast engineer, not Mission Impossible. Tommy, they're going to fire you anyway. Wouldn't you rather go out swinging? The night of April 3rd, I positioned myself in a rented van 2 blocks from Voltix. Laptop connected through 3 VPNs and a cellular hotspot. My hands were steady as I watched the clock tick toward 2:47 Sierra AM. Tommy's last text. In position, cleaning supplies ready. At 2:46:55, I initiated the connection sequence. At 2:47, I imagined Tommy accidentally dousing junction box B12 with industrial cleaner. The security feeds I was monitoring through a separate exploit showed the basement lights flicker. There, the 17-second window. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Upload initiated, progress bar crawling, 20%, 40%, come on, 60%. An alert flashed, someone was attempting to restore the firewall. 80%. My heart hammered. 95%. 98%. 99%. Upload complete. I immediately severed all connections, wiped the laptop's drive, and pulled the battery. Whatever happened next, there would be no trail back to me. The code was in their system now, buried deep, disguised as a routine scheduling update. In 2 weeks, during their moment of triumph, it would awaken, driving away. I allowed myself one look back at the Voltix tower, its LED logo pulsing against the night sky like a heartbeat. They had no idea they were already dead. The weapon was inside them, counting down with each pulse. Marcus Wellington would stand on that stage, smiling his shareholder smile, selling his vision of the future. And right when he reached the crescendo of his pitch, when every eye was watching, when their stock price hinged on this moment, my truth would replace his lies. 90 seconds to destroy an empire built on discarded careers. It seemed only fair. April 18th arrived wrapped in perfect Texas sunshine. The Phoenix Convention Hall had been transformed into a temple to corporate ambition. LED screens, 3 stories tall. Laser lights painting geometric patterns in the air. A stage that looked more like a spacecraft than a presentation platform. Voltix had even hired the Cirque du Soleil lighting director. No expense spared for their coronation. I watched from my rented Ford Transit, parked in a strip mall lot with clear sightline to the convention center. 3 laptops spread across a makeshift desk, each monitoring different aspects of the broadcast. The main feed showed crowds flooding in, tech journalists, industry leaders, influencers with their phones already recording. The investor feed tracked real-time stock movement. The third showed back-end diagnostics that officially I shouldn't have been able to access. Ladies and gentlemen, streaming live to the world, welcome to the future of broadcasting. The announcement echoed across all feeds. My pulse quickened. Showtime. The opening was pure spectacle. Dancers with LED costumes, a holographic display showing Voltix's growth trajectory. Testimonials from satisfied partners. I watched the viewer count climb, 8 million, 10 million, 12.3 million and rising. Perfect. The more eyes, the better. At Euro 0.15 Marcus Wellington took the stage, navy suit, silver temples, that practiced humility of executives who've never been truly humble. 25 years ago, Voltix began in a garage with a dream. He began. I almost laughed. The garage story was bullshit. They'd started with $3 million in venture capital. I checked my phone. 00:28.45. Less than 3 minutes. Streamforge Pro represents more than technology. Marcus continued, gesturing to the massive screens displaying the interface. It represents our values: innovation, excellence, family. 0:30:30. My hands hovered over the laptop keyboard. Even though there was nothing left to do, the code would execute automatically. Or it wouldn't. Either way, my part was done. 00:31 CCU, 17 seconds, my mouth went dry. At Voltix, we believe in building the future together. 00:31:15, 2 seconds, I held my breath. 00:31:17, the screens flickered, just once, like a blink. Then Marcus Wellington's face disappeared. In its place, the Voltix logo spinning slowly, ominously. My voice, no, the voice actress I'd hired, filled the convention center and 12 million homes. The following presentation contains internal documents from Voltix Media. Every claim is supported by evidence. Every number is real. Every decision was signed by executives who are watching this right now. The first document appeared, the termination matrix. Ages highlighted, names visible. Gasps echoed through the convention hall audio. Marcus was screaming something off mic, but the feed remained locked on my video. Email after email scrolled past. Phase out the 45-plus demographic. Kelly will be perfect once Emily trains her. Remember, stage terminations to avoid lawsuits. Then the salary comparisons. Emily Rourke, 22 years, $135,000, terminated. Kelly Drayton, 0 years experience, $78,000, hired. The pattern repeated down the list. The voice narrated with cold precision. Voltix saved $4.2 million by replacing experienced employees with younger staff. Executive bonuses that year totaled $5.8 million. I watched the investor feed. Voltix stock had dropped 12% in 30 seconds. The recording of Marcus played next, his slurred voice filling his own event. Dinosaurs like Rourke think they're irreplaceable. They don't understand disruption. We disrupt them before they drag us down. Chaos in the convention hall. Security guards rushing the broadcast booth. Technical staff frantically typing. But I designed the override to be uninterruptible. They could pull the plug on the entire building, and the feed would continue streaming from backup servers. The final segment showed the human cost. Photos of terminated employees, real faces, real families. David Chen, 49, broadcast engineer. Terminated after cancer diagnosis. Rebecca Martinez, 52, systems architect. Replaced after requesting maternity leave for her daughter. James Thompson, 47, security lead. Let go 1 year before pension eligibility. The last frame. Voltix Media, building tomorrow by destroying today's workforce. 90 seconds exactly. The screens flashed once more, then returned to the convention feed. But instead of Marcus at the podium, there was chaos. Audience members streaming out, journalists shouting questions. Marcus being hustled off stage by security. The stock ticker showed Voltix down 31% and falling. My phone buzzed. Tommy. Holy shit, it worked. I closed the laptops, calm finally settling over me. Through the van's window, I could see people pouring out of the convention center, phones pressed to ears, the story already spreading beyond any hope of containment. Somewhere in that chaos, Kelly Drayton was realizing her future had just evaporated. The executives were watching their stock options worthless. The board members were calling emergency meetings that wouldn't save them. I started the van and pulled into traffic. Anonymous in the afternoon rush. They'd look for me, of course. But Emily Rourke had already ceased to exist. The woman driving away was someone new, someone who'd learned that loyalty flows both ways. And when it doesn't, neither should mercy. Behind me, the Phoenix Convention Hall grew smaller in the mirror, taking with it 22 years of misplaced faith. Ahead lay the highway. And beyond that, a future where actions had consequences, even for those who thought themselves untouchable. Especially for them. The aftermath was biblical. Within 2 hours, Voltic's scandal was trending globally. Memes of Marcus's shocked face spread faster than wildfire. News outlets ran with headlines like, "Live execution, tech giant's launch becomes funeral," and "The 90-second massacre that killed Voltix." By 6 p.m., Voltix stock had crashed 47%. Trading was halted twice. Samsung and Nike released identical statements distancing themselves from the company. The SEC announced an investigation into potential age discrimination and securities fraud. 3 board members resigned before midnight. I drove through the night, ditching the van in Albuquerque and catching a Greyhound to Denver under a name that wasn't mine. In a truck stop bathroom, I cut my hair short and dyed it dark. The woman in the mirror was a stranger, which felt appropriate. Emily Rourke was as dead as Voltix's reputation. From a motel room, I watched the destruction compound. Former employees emerged from the shadows, emboldened by my video. A class action lawsuit was filed by Monday. Investigative journalists uncovered more: offshore accounts, tax evasion, a culture of systematic discrimination beyond just age. My 90 seconds had torn open a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. Marcus Wellington resigned Tuesday morning, his golden parachute mysteriously tangled in legal challenges. Kelly Drayton's LinkedIn showed seeking new opportunities by Wednesday. The entire C-suite toppled like dominoes, each executive scrambling to blame others, their unity shattered by self-preservation. But I was already gone, dissolving into America's vastness. I destroyed the laptops, burned the USB drives, scattered the ashes across 3 states. Every digital footprint was scrubbed, every connection severed. The FBI would investigate, of course. Voltix would hire digital forensics experts, cybersecurity firms, anyone who might trace the ghost in their machine. They'd find nothing, because I'd learned from the best, from them, how to make someone disappear. Tommy texted once more before I destroyed that phone. They can't prove anything. System logs show the breach came from a server that was supposedly decommissioned. It is saying it's impossible. I smiled, typing back, "Nothing's impossible." They taught me that. 2 weeks later, from a library in Portland, I checked one last time. Voltix had lost 78% of its value. The building in Clearwater was up for sale. Most of the technical staff, the ones they'd planned to terminate, had already found better jobs, recruited by competitors who suddenly valued experience. The young replacements discovered their stock options were worthless, their futures as disposable as the people they'd replaced. The internet had archived everything. My video lived on 1,000 servers, in 1,000,000 social media posts, an eternal monument to corporate hubris. They could never scrub it clean. Every future Google search of Voltix Media would return my truth first. I closed the browser and walked out into Portland rain. Somewhere, investigators were still hunting Emily Rourke. They'd analyze code signatures, interview associates, chase digital shadows. But Emily Rourke had learned her most valuable lesson from Voltix itself: how to become invisible, then how to vanish entirely. The rain felt like absolution, each drop washing away another piece of who I'd been. 22 years of devotion, 3 months of planning, 90 seconds of revelation. The math was clean, balanced. They'd stolen my past. I'd erased their future. In my pocket, a new ID card bore a different name. Ahead lay freelance opportunities, small companies that valued wisdom over youth, places where loyalty might actually mean something. Or maybe I'd teach, pass on real knowledge to the next generation, including the importance of keeping your own keys to any kingdom you build. But first, I had one last task. From a burner phone, I sent a message to a journalism contact. Check Voltix's backup servers, location Delta 7, password Dinosaur 22. Everything they thought they deleted is there. Then I dropped the phone in a trash can and disappeared into the crowd. Just another middle-aged woman in the rain, invisible and finally, completely free. 6 months later, I sit in a small coffee shop in Astoria, Oregon. The Pacific crashes against the rocks outside, a rhythm I've grown to love. My laptop shows 3 freelance projects, small broadcast companies that appreciate experience, that understand the value of someone who's seen every possible failure mode. The pay isn't what Voltix offered, but respect has its own currency. The barista doesn't know my name. I mean, she knows the name I gave her, but not the one that appeared in 1,000 news articles, a million conspiracy theories. To her, I'm just Sarah, the quiet woman who orders black coffee and tips well, who helps fix their Wi-Fi when it glitches. On my screen, a YouTube video plays on mute. The Voltix incident, a deep dive. 4.7 million views. The comments are a mix of admiration and speculation. Whoever did this is a hero. Inside job for sure. Emily Rourke didn't kill herself. That last one makes me smile. They've turned me into a legend, a ghost story Silicon Valley tells itself about the cost of betrayal. I click to another tab. Voltix Media. Chapter 11, Bankruptcy Filed. Assets being sold to competitors. The Clearwater building now houses a medical billing company. Marcus Wellington was indicted last month. Turns out my hack had inspired others to look deeper, to find the real crimes I'd only hinted at. He'd blame me at his trial. Probably. Good luck finding me to testify. A LinkedIn notification pops up. I maintain a few fake profiles to monitor the industry. Kelly Drayton is working at a startup in Austin. Her bio says, growth-minded professional with experience in crisis management. I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. She learned the same lesson I did, just from the other side. Loyalty is a luxury tech companies can't afford, and neither should their employees. My phone buzzes. A text from Tommy. From his new job at a company that actually values veteran engineers. Saw the news. Wellington's going to prison. Thought you should know. Hope you're well. Wherever you are. I don't respond. Sarah the freelancer has never heard of Emily Rourke. The truth is, I won. Not just the revenge. That was just deserved consequences finally catching up. I won because I remembered who I was before Voltix. A problem solver. A builder. A woman who could create things that mattered, with or without a corporate logo attached. These days, I build smaller things. A streaming solution for a local news station, a broadcast system for a community college. Work that matters to real people, not stock prices. I sleep better at 44 than I did at 34, even on a third of the salary. Sometimes, late at night. I check the old forums where broadcast engineers gather. They still talk about it, the perfect hack, the untraceable ghost, the 90 seconds that toppled an empire. They've analyzed every frame, every line of code they could reconstruct. But they'll never find what they're looking for because they're searching for Emily Rourke, brilliant engineer. They should be looking for Sarah, who serves good coffee tips and knows that the best revenge isn't just destruction. It's walking away from the explosion without looking back. Building a life where you can't be disappeared because you've already vanished on your own terms. I close the laptop and watch the sun set over the Pacific. Tomorrow, I have a consultation with a nonprofit that needs help broadcasting their message to rural communities. Real work. Honest work. The kind where they'll say thank you and mean it. In my pocket, my phone holds no photos from the past. no contacts from before. I am a ghost of my own making, haunting a coastline far from Texas glass towers and corporate betrayals. They fired Emily Rourke after 22 years. She hijacked their $8 million launch live on air. But Sarah? Sarah just makes things work. And that's enough. That's everything. Fired after 22 years, I hijacked their $8 million launch live on air, and I'd do it again. Thank you so much for listening to this story of corporate revenge and redemption. I'm curious. Where are you listening from? Drop a comment below and let me know what city or country you're in. I love connecting with listeners from around the world. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel for more tales of justice and transformation. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever witnessed corporate injustice? How do you think Emily Sarah's story reflects our modern workplace? Share your experiences in the comments below. Until next time, remember, your worth isn't determined by any company's valuation of you.